yeah, you're recording.
Here we go. We are live. Right. um, hello, Julia. It's very, very nice to meet you. My name's Adam. Just to let you know that I'm not a fully qualified counsellor. I am, in fact, a student. But that being said, like all qualified counsellors, us as students, we do abide by the ethical framework. And what that is it's based on our values and principles. Basically, what that is we ensure that we put you first and your needs. Um, Everything that's been said today should be said in the utmost confidence. We pride ourselves here in our confidentiality. There are some exceptions to that, however, being if I believe that you are in risk of any harm or danger, or anyone else for that matter, I will have to speak to someone else for safety reasons. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Can I just confirm that you are in an environment where no one can hear us, and everything that's been said will be confidential?
Yeah.
Perfect. You might want some tissues and some water nearby just in case. And what else was there? If the internet does go down, don't be alarmed. I will give you a call back to finish the session. Today's session will be 20 minutes. So it's 11:25, so 20 minutes, so 1:45. So if you're ready to start the session, Julia, I'd like to get the session underway. So what's brought you here today, Julia?
I'm just feeling a bit overwhelmed at the moment, really. Yeah, just kind of struggling with everything.
Overwhelmed and struggling.
Yeah, I suppose it's partly the lockdown, and partly with what's going on with my mum, with the fact that she's still here. She's probably got another couple of months left, but it's just with that. It's just the politics with my family. Yeah, if you've got brothers or sisters, then you know. But yeah, basically with that, just picking that apart. In general, my mum she's back at home. She was in a care home for a while, but my dad's looking after her. But she's just so demanding. She's a stubborn old what's it, which is where I get it from. And yeah, she's basically bedbound. She's she's just not helping at all. She's wearing a incontinence nappy that needs changing every couple of hours, but she's just constantly asking for something all the time. My dad's just obviously he's old as well. He's not coping, but the problem is that she's refusing to go in another home, but then my dad won't just outright say I can't cope with her, or he won't talk to her and be firm with her and say, look, I can't cope with you, you're going in a home. But because she's got mental capacity, she has to agree to go in a home, and it's just a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. I've had enough of it. Yeah, so yeah.
Okay. So the whole thing with the COVID situation, and your mum being ill, it just seems like there's a sort of a lot of weight on your shoulders at the moment.
Yeah, I think with college as well, I'm behind on my work, and now I'm panicking because our tutor earlier said that the assignment's kind of needs to be due in by the end of the day, and I've not done anything on it. So I'm like, right, am I going to fail the course now? I feel like I want to give up anyway. I just feel like I want to walk away because I think, this is all too much. But I've just give a bit of background. When I was growing up, I was allowed to give things up if it was too hard, if it was too much. If it's upsetting you, just give it up. And so I've had to work really hard as an adult at perseverance, endurance, and if I start a course, I need to finish it. So it's all these old feelings are sort of coming back. I don't want to get on with the work. I've always struggled to get on with work in terms of lack of discipline and just being handed everything on a plate, basically. Just sounds awful. But I had COVID over the Christmas break, and as I said, it gave such a brain fog that I just did nothing for a couple of weeks, and I feel like I've just sort of lost that habit. I was talking earlier in our class about feeling like I'm in purgatory pushing a massive boulder uphill, and that's basically where I'm at the moment. Everything feels like this immense struggle.
So this immense struggle, can you sort of, is there like, if you could describe a picture of it other than pushing up a boulder up the hill, what else would it be?
I suppose it's also to do with a sense of apathy, really. That's the root of it. It's that can't be asked feeling. It's the idea that I want to retreat to my cave of despair. It's just something else I've had to work on as well, that with, obviously not going to go into it too much, but with my bipolar, I have depressive phases, I have manic, hypermanic phases mildly, but on the depressive side there's always been the way that, as a way of coping, I withdraw, I retreat. It's this cave of despair thing is a bit like a safe space. I can go into this cave, no one's going to bother me, there's no responsibility, it's safe. I can just go in there and do nothing. No one's demanding anything of me. And as I say, that's what it always boils down to, this sort of sense of like, I have to get on with stuff, and I'm a bit sick of it, to be honest.
So it does seem like that there's a lot going on at the moment, and actually having COVID itself must have been quite worrying, and obviously with your mum being ill and things like that, having to deal with that, and your siblings, sort of being sounds like there's some sort of friction there between you and your siblings, and your college course as well, you've got that to deal with, and so you just feel like running away from it all, and just being in that safe environment, where you can just relax and just have that free headspace.
Yeah, pretty much. I think there's definitely a sense of wanting to block everything out, and I think it's probably partly down to the whole pandemic stuff as well, because life is just not normal at the moment. It's like we're constantly on a high state of alert, I guess. So I suppose that links into it a bit as well, in terms of like a safe space. Then I don't have to think about what's going on in the world, or my kind of external circumstances, but also I think, I'm quite a deep thinker, so I do tend to look at the bigger picture of what's going on in the world, and even worrying about things like how the pandemic has affected us, that Debenhams has shut down the Arcadia group, and the little impacts, the fact that I get my wide fitting boots from Evans, where am I going to get that from? Or this is probably a bit, but like bras, I get a bra fitting service from Debenhams. Where am I going to go for that? If it's all online, I don't want to measure myself, quite frankly. And when you look it up, if you were to Google it, it all comes up with the demise of these brands is because other online brands like ASOS, Boohoo, goodness, all these fast fashion crap, basically, that's overtaken it. And I think, is this our legacy? It's just so sad. It's just so sad, and it pains me that this is what it's come to. I think in a positive, it's made a lot of people think about shopping sustainably and maybe going more with indie biz and things like that. But it's just so sad that Debenhams and all that have gone, and what have we got to show for it? Fast fashion. That's just awful.
Yeah. So you're feeling really frustrated and sad about it all.
Yeah, basically. I think I think that's why I just want to switch off. It just feels like, when is this going to end as well? The fact that this is lockdown number 3, and we've been doing the masks and the social distancing. It's all the little things that you take for granted, like, for example, doing the school run and not worrying about being in a crowd. Like, it just struck me the other day, like, at the moment, like, my son's going in under emergency provision, but from, like, in September, for example, people only just started wearing masks probably at the school gates probably about October, and there's not enough room on the pavements to social distance. So it made me feel safer wearing a mask. But it's just that sense, like, when we collected our kids, we could go in and we'd all mingle on the playground, and the fact that we've kind of lost a little bit of that social aspect. But it just strikes me as so strange how we could go in and we weren't worrying about how close we were to everyone. And it just seems like madness that just the little things, like just something as small as doing the school run and worrying about how close you are to people and how, if you're going to catch it, if you're going to spread it, if, and all this. And it's just like, no wonder it feels like too much, really.
Yeah.
It's just a high state of anxiety all the time, almost.
Yeah. It's definitely frustrating. So, with everything that's going on at the moment, regarding your mum, your family, the fact that you've had COVID, there being another lockdown, and obviously it's been quite frustrating and sad for you. What do you feel that you could do to I don't know what to ask. I'm stumped. So before you said you was feeling really frustrated. So was that frustration? Is that specifically for the whole COVID situation, or does that sort of fall into other aspects of what's going on in your life?
A little bit of both, yes. Frustrated at the overall situation, the impact of it, as I say, in terms of like shops closing down, even restaurants closing down, like, I don't know, Bella Italia in town. Goodness, the amount of meals I've had there with my school friends when we were growing up. Little things like that. We used to go there for coffee before we were clubbing, and just like, in fact, that's just gone. All those memories.
Your memory, yeah.
And so there's a lot of that. There's a lot of kind of sadness and frustration, but the other frustration is definitely to do with my parents. I've got, when I mentioned about siblings, I've got 3 older brothers, but one is in Canada, so I don't really speak to him, but he is a Christian, so we don't tend to have as much conflict because there's a little bit more grace with each other. And obviously, whereas, and then another brother lives in Kent. I'm not in contact with him, so that doesn't really affect me. But the other brother, who is local and who is helping out and is kind of more involved in the situation, bless him, he's not Christian and he's very bitter, and we do share the same frustration with the situation, but he's also a highly sensitive person like me, so he can be very deep and quite intuitive, a lot of observations, but sometimes it can be a little bit of jealousy over what I've had and what he's had in terms of how we've been brought up. when we chat, it can sometimes be draining because it's just heavy all the time because we're both constantly, well, you did this and you did that, and you need to stop doing this and don't do this now because mum did this and blah blah, and it's just like it all just gets a bit much. And as I say, with his bitterness, it can just be a bit, you know. We've probably, a lot of us have not been brought. There's probably always going to be something that we can look back at our childhood and say, I wish it wasn't like that, or I wish I was brought up differently. But at the end of the day, it's up to us as adults to say, right, okay, that's happened. I forgive my mum or whatever, and it's up to me as an adult to change it. But he seems to be very much, you know, the blame game, and it's all a bit woe is me a lot of the time. And you know, whereas I was given a lot of praise, I think he's jealous of that. And he even said to me the other month, whatever it was talking about my creativity and my jewellery that I sell on Etsy, and he was like, oh yeah, you're not good, it's just the fact that you've been told you're amazing. And I'm like, what? I was like, he could have phrased it in a way that, you know, he could say, well, maybe your value of yourself is perhaps inflated because of the amount of praise that you've had, not like you're shit because you've had too much, sorry, excuse my language, you're rubbish because you've had all that praise kind of thing, and you just think you're good. You know, or he'll come out with, oh, let's face it, you could do a lot more, you just can't be asked. And I'm like, maybe the truth, but I don't want to hear it. And it's just like, I kind of marvel whenever we have a positive conversation with each other, really. So yeah, that gets a bit. With my mum and my dad though, I just do feel like I'm sort of constantly in the middle, because my dad by nature is a liar, and I'm more like my mum. I'm very honest, probably too honest sometimes, gets me in trouble. But like the other day I went round there and my dad had said, you know, don't mention anything about her going back into a home. She thinks you're the only one on her side at the moment. Just keep quiet about it. And I'm like, what? So you're asking me to lie now, are you? And it just feels like there's this constant back and forth, because he's not being honest with her, and yet I want to be honest with her. And then I feel like I'm kind of like, right, okay. And then I ended up mentioning it. It just, obviously, all it exploded in my face a little bit. So it's it's very hard.
Okay. Yeah, just to make you aware, Julia, we've got around about 5 minutes left of the session. So you know, you've said, you've got this sort of sibling rivalry. It feels at the moment coming from your brother. Is that right? In particular, you feel that he's quite jealous of you. Because he feels that you've had more praise than what he has had, so he sort of you feel that he's quite hard on you and tries to sort of bring you down. And also, you know, your father doesn't want to tell your mum something in particular, but you feel that it's right to tell her, so you done what was in line with yourself, and that seemed to have created sort of tension. So I can understand why you're feeling frustrated at the moment, and quite sad about things, as you've said. You know, especially with this COVID situation as well, actually having COVID. I can definitely empathise with how you're feeling.
Yeah, I was quite surprised with the COVID actually, because I had the physical effects were quite mild. I didn't even realise I had it to start with. Because I remember it was weird, because the brain fog was the worst side of it. Because I've gone blank. Yeah, with my bipolar cycles, I'd been mostly sort of on the higher end. So when I had this kind of what felt like what I would describe as like a zombie-like depression, I was a bit like, where has this come from? I couldn't understand it because it wasn't in line with how my cycles had been tracking. And although I was a bit depressed from what's going on with my mum, it wasn't to that degree. So when another of my friends said, "Oh, COVID has been known to cause brain fog," and it was that particular phrase, brain fog, and I was off googling it, and then I was like, this makes so much more sense now. I didn't get tested, which I do feel guilty about, because I feel like I probably had a duty to do that. But it turned out that my mum was positive for COVID, and she picked it up from the care home, and I'd been visiting in the care home. Again, my dad had it, not confirmed, but from all the symptoms, it was quite obvious it was. Hence why, and I think at the time, the thought of going for a test, I couldn't even think straight anyway. So it was sort of like at the back of my mind, but the thought of actually trying to function, to organise it, get out the house was sort of, so it was a bit weird. It was more, the mental side of it threw me more than anything, because I just wasn't aware it could happen. It could affect that badly. But I guess maybe because I'm neurodiverse, that perhaps the mental side would affect me more than someone who's neurotypical, so to speak. But yeah, it's a bit,
Well, I'm going to end the session there, Julia. It was really, really nice talking to you. So, you spoke about COVID, about the whole situation, about it being quite frustrating and being quite sad, because there's a restaurant that's been closed down, and you and your friends have got a history there. You used to eat dinners and that there, so you had good memories there. That's been closed down. Plus, was it Marks and Spencers? Did you say that was closed? Oh no, Debenhams, wasn't it? Because that's Debenhams was closed down, which is obviously an inconvenience. And then obviously with the situation with your mum and your family and things like that. So you was feeling very frustrated, quite sad, and you've got a lot on your shoulders, by the sounds of it, especially with your brother and things like that. So I'm interested to know, are you free next week? I do have an opening next week for the same time. Would you be interested
yes.
in? Yeah? Okay, that's perfect. Okay then, Julia, I'll leave that there, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. God, that was hard.
Sorry,
That's us, right?
I was end up going so deep. I was like, waffle. Good luck writing that one up later.
Yeah. So how was it for you then, Julia? Was it all right, or?
No, it was good. I think you gave me space to talk, paraphrase well, focused on the feelings. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Sarah, from an observer's point of view?
So the opening was good. I'm not sure if you mentioned that you were a training counselor.
Yeah, I said I was a student counsellor. I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I must have missed that.
That's all right.
But I did notice that, were you trying to say it off of memory?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
Yeah, I did notice that. And then you're like, you weren't sure. So maybe just read the contract.
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't know, just
yeah, sure. Yeah, so it flows better, yeah.
And then I really like when you said, you were talking about, when Julia was talking about having an immense struggle, if there was a picture, describe it. Is there a different way to describe it? I really like that. That was probably more like the questioning side that I've been doing in my other role. But I really like that. And you did a lot of really good paraphrasing. Sounds like a weight on your shoulder, which was a good way to paraphrase what she was saying. Old feelings are coming back, which you kind of came up with on your own. So yeah, really good paraphrasing, really good summary. I think it was really, really good overall. I think you managed to kind of capture what she was saying on the whole. I think you got stuck at one point.
I
did. Only natural.
I did, yeah. I was like...
Yeah, I felt a bit blank at that point as well. I felt like I'd sort of said everything, and then it was like a natural lull, I think, in that
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. Okay,
So
awesome.
when you went back, I was thinking, I don't know what else to say now.
Yeah,
either.
yeah. All right. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, no, it was really, really good.
All right, excellent, excellent.
All right, so I'm the helpy, Julia. You're the helper.
I'm the observer, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Righto. Hang on.
So are we still doing the like observer worksheets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feedback.
Yeah, we're still doing the peer feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so behind because I haven't done your one from how many weeks ago was that? Sheesh.
Oh no, I don't think you did actually. No,
Probably shouldn't say anything.
I forgot. I forgot about that.
Oh, what feedback? No?
Right. So Sarah's the help E.
Yeah.
Help E. Okay.
I
Right.
don't know what to talk about.
Right. I feel like I need a minute to switch modes now.
What time is it?
Yeah. Counselor hat on.
Would anyone object if I quickly go to the loo?
I need a wee as well, actually.
Right. I'll be too
What time are
shaped.
we supposed
Uh,
what time are we supposed to be back?
I think Jill said that she'll pop in, didn't she? And she'll tell us when we got to come back. I'm pretty sure she did.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, should we take a little break?
Yeah. What's a couple of minutes or 5 minutes? Or...
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Yeah, like 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
All right. Cool. All right. See you in a sec.